right, so I'm going to start with the biggest sheets that I can. I'm going to come into this part here, get this pushed up against the wall, cut out for the wires, and then I'll start working on the section on the tunnel. I think that is the best way to handle this. I'm going to use smaller strips to kind of cover that up, and I think it'll make it a little bit easier. But I want to lay these down in the biggest patches that I can to start with, just to cover up the most area. I don't think there's really going to be any difference in the quality of sound deadening if I cut it in smaller strips, but it should just cover more area if I leave it in as big of pieces as possible. I will say it could be a little bit harder to work with in these bigger strips, but I think I can deal with it. So I've just got my razor knife and my roller, and we're going to get at it. Now what I'm going to do is try not to stick this to the ground before I get it underneath this cabling. Line it up with the front. And as far over as I can get it. Then try to square it up the side. Tuck this in. Looks like I'm all the way over here. I'm lined up in the front. So now I can stick this side down, get my little edge started, and then I can start pulling the paper the rest of the way across. I'm just going to come in with my hand at first, try to contour these edges, and then I'll go back over it with the roller once I've got it where I want it. But see, the other thing you have to contend with is these wires are going to have to go down, and that placement's going to change on where the wires are at. All right, that piece is all rolled in. Now we can start cutting into these smaller sections. All right, now I need to start working with this section here. You can tell this giant sheet not going to work too well to fill that hole in. So I've got a couple of options. I can come back through and cut this off, which might be the easiest way to do this. Just fill in some little gaps, or I can start, I think, at the bottom here and just kind of roll my way up, and from there cut off wherever I need to cut it at. Now another thing we can do is just not worry about this line, bring this up as high as we want, cut the two pieces together, peel the stuff off that I've already got down, and that should make us a pretty clean line once we get to it. In all honesty, that might be the way we end up doing it. I'll try to leave the paper behind it so this doesn't stick to itself, because that is going to be really hard to get apart. It seems like the best way, but I don't know. I might just come through here and cut on this line so I've got a hard line to deal with. I don't know. Let's let's peel some of this up. See how it goes. First thing I think I'm going to do is cut to size this way. And I'll worry about that back piece with some of the cutoff from this piece. Trying to get it to bend up against that edge and up here and over all this, I think is just going to be too much work. So we'll find an edge point. And actually I want to start at this corner, so I'll wrap it this way. Got that up against the edge. This is going to be my cut point. Well, yeah. That way we can just have a straight piece to put across here. We can fill in these gaps later. So I'm just going to mark this with where I want to cut it. And then I'll cut it, and we'll cut it to shape after we get that part done. Now, I can find my point here where I need to cut it so I can accommodate for these seat mounts and things. So we're going to need a mark here and a mark here. There's also this, which I think I'm just going to wrap up to and then cut out. So got my marks here, and I can kind of use this as a guide to how far out I need to cut. And again, I'm not going to pull this off yet, so I might be able to use some of it to stick it down a tiny bit better, but I am just going to bring that up. So now I'm going to pull some paper. I'm going to try to line up this edge, and I'm going to start rolling it up the center console. So now, like I said, I'm not worried about some gaps. What I can kind of do is just cut this straight through. That should take off what I need on both sides to make this a straight line. Now I can peel this stuff off here. And if I did it right, I have a nice straight line. All right, now I'll use the leftover pieces from that, and I'll fill in these holes. Also, be careful when you're doing this stuff, because this cut aluminum becomes very sharp. I didn't even notice I was bleeding, but I definitely am. I'm gonna have to go get a Band-Aid for multiple spots on my hand. I'll be back. Well, as you can see, we got a lot done today, but it's hot. It's too hot to be out here anymore. So I'm going to go inside, grab a cold snack. But we did get a lot done, and I'm real happy with that. I do intend to do the doors, the pillars, pretty much anything I can cover with sound deadening. That's the plan. So when I do the rest of it, I'll finish up the footwells and up into the firewall, across the firewall, things like that. But I think you've got a good idea of how this works. So we're going to end it there. I really do appreciate you all watching. Go ahead and like, subscribe. It would really help me out. And as always, thanks for watching PFDAuto. Stay tuned for next time. So let's see how far we got. We got most of this bay. We did not finish the tunnel. We did not get all of the footwell or underneath here. But over here, we got pretty much all of it covered up, except for a little spot up here. We'll get to that. Then down here on the back passenger footwell, we are completely covered all the way around the back. Also, this one is completely done. The tunnel's covered up here. Here, we're going to leave open. Probably going to have to cut a big chunk of this out for the shifter linkage, so we're not going to bother covering up the top of that. We will get to the rest of this, but we also need to do the doors, the pillars, things like that. So when we come back to take care of those, we'll get these little spots that I missed. But we got some decent coverage done today. Got a lot of progress, so I'm happy with that.